Welcome to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast, where midlife meets growth, purpose, and connection. A place where midlife is not something to survive, but a season to thrive. Here, we're building a welcoming community of people who are right in the middle of life, sharing our stories, learning from one another, and discovering just how meaningful and powerful this season can be. Together, we'll explore the topics that shape midlife, relationships, transitions, health, parenting, careers, and the inner work that helps us thrive. My goal is to encourage you, uplift you, and remind you that midlife can be vibrant, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. My hope is that you'll feel seen, supported, and inspired to live fully, grow bravely, and embrace the person you're becoming. I'm so glad you're here. Let's navigate midlife together on the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast. Welcome back to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Stute, Enneagram coach, podcast host, and your biggest cheerleader as we continue learning how to live fully right where we are. Today, we are beginning our Enneagram and Relationships series with a look at Type 1, the Reformer, or sometimes called the Perfectionist. But before we dive into that, I want to take just a few minutes to set the stage for anyone new to the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a personality framework that helps us understand why we think, feel, and act the way we do. It's not about labels or putting people into boxes. It's about helping us understand the patterns we already live in with more compassion and clarity. There are 9 core types, each with its own motivations, fears, and longings. And while we all carry a little piece of every type, one usually stands out as the lens through which we see the world. The Enneagram helps us move beyond behavior, beyond what we do, and into why we do it. It helps us name patterns that might keep us stuck, and it points us towards growth, compassion, and self-awareness. As we explore each type, you'll notice that the Enneagram isn't about judgment. It's about grace and growth. It's an invitation to notice what drives you, what drains you, and how you can live more freely as the person you were created to be. If you'd like a more detailed explanation about the Enneagram, check out Season 7, Episode 1 of the podcast, where I share more details about the Enneagram and all 9 types. I've also linked resources in the show notes of this episode if you'd like to learn more. A lot of people will ask me, how do I figure out my type? How do I know what type I am? And I will explain that taking an Enneagram test or assessment is one of the first ways you can get a sneak peek into the type that you might be, but it's not the only or best way. I've linked a free assessment in the show notes of the episode that you can take if you're curious, and also a couple of books that I have found incredibly helpful when exploring the Enneagram and really learning my type. No one is supposed to type you, so if you have someone say to you, I think you're a type 2 or a type 8, don't listen to that and don't let that influence you. If you do decide to take an assessment or read one of the books that I have linked in the show notes, figure it out for yourself. Even myself as an Enneagram coach, I am not to type anyone. I can walk alongside you and help you explore and help you determine your type, but I am not even supposed to type anyone. So just keep that in mind. If you want to learn more, I'm happy to help you. Or you can take the assessment and check out some of the resources I've linked in the show notes. So today we are here to talk about Type 1, sometimes called the Reformer, the Perfectionist, or the Improver. If you're a 1, or you love someone who is, or you work with someone that's a Type 1, this type has a deep internal drive to make things right, to improve, correct, and align with what's good and true. Their core desire is to be good, ethical, and right. Their core fear is being bad or corrupt or defective. Their core longing is to hear that you are good. Ones have a strong inner critic, a voice that's constantly evaluating whether they measure up, whether they've done enough, or whether something could have been better. That voice can be exhausting, but it also gives ones their incredible sense of integrity, and commitment. Healthy ones are wise, disciplined, and principled. They model excellence and inspire others to raise the bar. They bring clarity and structure to chaos. When under stress, though, that same drive for goodness can turn inward or outward as criticism towards themselves or others, because that inner voice never seems satisfied. Now, within the Enneagram framework, there are lots of layers. There aren't just the 9 types. There are wings and stress and growth paths and all kinds of other things that I won't go into here because we would be here all day. However, I am going to touch on a couple of things that kind of flavor or season each type. So I'm going to talk about wings. If you look at the diagram of the Enneagram, it's like a circle. And so every type has a number on either side of it. And those are your wings. Every Enneagram type is influenced by those neighboring numbers. So for ones, those are type 9 and type 2. A 1 with a 9 wing tends to be more calm and patient and idealistic. They may focus on principles and peacekeeping. A 1 with a 2 wing is more relational and nurturing, often channeling their drive for improvement into helping others. When ones experience stress, they move towards another number. So also in the Enneagram diagram, you'll see a lot of times arrows pointing towards and away from different types. So in stress, a type 1 moves towards the low side or the unhealthy side of a type 4. They can become moody, self-critical, or perfectionistic to the point of discouragement. They can get caught in self-doubt or comparison. When in growth or in health, they move towards the high side or the healthy side of a type 7. They lighten up, embrace joy, spontaneity, and the beauty of imperfection. They begin to recognize that the world won't fall apart if things aren't perfect, and neither will they. A growing 1 learns to balance discipline with delight, realizing that rest and laughter are also holy work. If you've been listening to this season and finding yourself thinking, that sounds like me, or that explains someone I love, I want you to know you're not alone. The Enneagram is such a powerful tool for understanding ourselves and the people around us, not so that we can label or fix one another, but so we can meet ourselves and others with more compassion, patience, and grace. As a certified Enneagram coach, I work with individuals and teams who want to grow in self-awareness, strengthen their relationships, and navigate this season of life with more clarity and confidence. Whether you're exploring your own type, working through a transition, or part of a team wanting to communicate and collaborate more effectively, Enneagram coaching creates space to slow down, reflect, and grow together. If you feel a gentle nudge to go deeper, I'd love to connect with you. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Nicole Stute or email me at themarvelousmiddleagepodcast@gmail.com. There's no pressure, just a conversation. Because understanding ourselves changes the way we show up in the world, and that matters. And with that in mind, let's jump back into this week's episode. So now let's talk about ones and how they show up in relationships. That is the focus of this podcast series this season. And so I want to focus both in personal relationships and professional relationships. So if you love a type 1 or have a friend that's a type 1, or if you work or lead a type 1, you work with a type 1 or lead a type 1, this information is going to be helpful. And then I'm going to also share some very practical things you can do if you are in a personal or professional relationship with a type 1. In personal relationships, type 1s are loyal, they're responsible and dependable. They want to do things right, whether it's raising children, maintaining their home, and being a supportive partner. But their desire for improvement can sometimes come across as criticism. So a 1 might think, I'm just helping, while their spouse or friend hears, you are not good enough. If you're in relationship with a 1, try to hear their correction as care. And if you're a 1, practicing softening your delivery and extending grace, especially to yourself. In professional settings, ones are the backbone of integrity. They keep teams on track, meet deadlines, and hold high standards. They thrive when there's structure and clarity, but they can struggle with delegation or letting go of control, especially if others don't meet their standards. Growth for a one often looks like learning to trust others' efforts and focusing on progress, not perfection. When ones bring their insight and discipline into balance with flexibility and empathy, they often become incredible leaders, fair, principled, and inspiring. If you're in relationship with a type one, whether that's at home, at work, or in a leadership context, here's the heart of what matters most to them: integrity, responsibility, and doing things the right way. Type ones are motivated by a deep desire to improve the world around them. They often carry a strong inner sense of responsibility and an internal voice that constantly points out what could be better. And that voice doesn't turn off easily. So the way we communicate with ones can either calm that inner pressure or unintentionally add to it. Here are a few practical ways to better communicate with, support, and lead a type one. Start with appreciation and acknowledgement. Before offering feedback, begin with recognizing their effort, integrity, or commitment. Type ones often focus on what isn't done yet, so hearing that their work and values are seen truly matters. Even a simple acknowledgement like, "I see how much thought and care you put into this," can go a long way. Be clear, specific, and prepared. Ones thrive on clarity. Vague expectations or last-minute changes can create unnecessary stress. Whether you're making a request or giving direction, be as clear and organized as possible. In the workplace, written follow-ups, timelines, and defined goals are especially helpful. Frame feedback around improvement, not failure. Type ones are already very aware of their own mistakes, often more than anyone else. That inner critic that they have, and no other type has as strong of an inner critic as a type one. I mean, we all, to a certain extent, have that inner critic, but ones hear it constantly, all day long, every day. I've talked to type ones who have said to me, "I thought everybody had that. I didn't realize I was the only one that had that strong inner critic." And it's very true. You might have an inner critic where you sometimes talk negatively to yourself, but ones tend to do it more often than anyone else. So when you're offering them feedback, focus on what's working and what could be refined rather than what went wrong. Language like, "Here's one way this could have been better," tends to land more positively than "this isn't right." For ones, you need to normalize rest and flexibility. Type ones often feel guilty slowing down, even when they need rest. Gently reminding them that rest, play, and margin are not signs of laziness, but necessary for sustainability. And that can be incredibly supportive. As a leader, model this for them and explicitly give permission for balance. Invite their perspective and values. Ones want to know that what they care about matters. Asking questions like, "What feels most important to you here?" Or "What would doing well look like from your perspective?" helps them feel respected and engaged rather than controlled or criticized. Separate their identity from their performance. This is especially important. Type ones can tie their sense of worth to doing things well. Regular reminders that they are valued for who they are, not just what they produce, help soften that inner critic and build trust in relationships. When we meet type ones with clarity, appreciation, and grace, we help quiet the pressure that they carry, and we get to experience the incredible gifts they bring: wisdom, integrity, consistency, and a deep commitment to doing good in the world. Understanding a type one doesn't mean walking on eggshells. It just means learning how to communicate in a way that honors both their heart and their humanity. In the show notes, there is a link to a book called The Path Between Us by Suzanne Stabile. And if you're not familiar with Suzanne and her work, she is kind of the modern day, godmother, if you will, of the Enneagram. She is wonderful. If you've ever had the privilege to hear her speak, then you know what I am talking about. And this book, The Path Between Us, is the second book that I read when I was learning about the Enneagram. And I have to say, it is probably my favorite book that I have. So if you are interested in exploring more about the Enneagram in relationships specifically, I would highly, highly encourage you to check it out. One thing I do want to stress throughout this series is that there are no two Enneagram types that are better or worse together. There are some that certainly probably relate better to each other, but I get asked a lot, especially in personal relationships, whether it be in marriage or partnerships or friendships, what type is better together? And there really isn't. It's basically more of how two individuals are in terms of their growth or stress. If you're someone who is incredibly stressed, overwhelmed, not in a healthy place mentally or emotionally, you're not going to be as compatible with someone as if you were in a more less stressed, more healthy, more growth oriented mindset. And so that's what I tell people. It's more based on your stress and growth than the type you are. So ones, as I mentioned earlier, are very focused on being good, having integrity, doing things the right way. And so if you're in a relationship with a one, or you lead a one or work with a one, it's just important to know that about them, that it's very important. Ones are, very easy to find fault with themselves, and so you just want to be really sure that as you're navigating that relationship, that you're careful and gentle with them, and also one thing that's important is that you admit your own mistakes in the relationship. Ones can be critical, and it's easy for them to point out not just their own mistakes, but others' mistakes. And I think they relate to you better if you're able to admit mistakes. Ones also appreciate equity. They work hard and they expect the same from you. So if they perceive that you're not carrying the load, whether it be around the house or in the workplace, just know that they're very appreciative when someone also kind of carries the load as well. If you're in conflict with a one, let them know that you want to resolve it. Helping, them with the resolution, letting them know that you're committed to working things through is really important. Ones like order. If you live with a one, you probably know this, but if you can honor that for them in the spaces where they live and work, that really helps them as well. And as I mentioned before, supporting ones in taking time away from their responsibilities is really important. Encouraging them to take downtime, helping them process their day is really, really important. Those are just a few things that Suzanne talks about in her book, The Path Between Us. I'm going to keep mentioning that book throughout the series because I think it's really helpful. It's a great book. It's a really fast, easy read, so I highly recommend it to you. And I just want to say in closing that if you are a type one, I want you to hear this very clearly. You are good. You don't have to earn your worth. Your diligence, your integrity, your desire to make the world better, those are beautiful gifts. But the real magic happens when you learn to rest in that truth and you're already enough just as you are. And if you love a one, thank them. Notice their consistency, their care, and the unseen effort they put into making life smoother for everyone around them. And as we continue this series, remember, the Enneagram isn't a label, it's a lens. It helps us see ourselves and others more clearly so we can love more deeply. So thank you for spending time with me on this very first episode of our Enneagram and Relationship series. I'm looking forward to exploring each type as we go through this series. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode, and feel free to come over and connect with me on Instagram at Nicole Stute. I'd love to see you there. And thanks for listening. Thank you so much for being part of the Marvelous Middle-Aged Podcast community. I'd love for you to follow the show so new episodes land right in your feed. I'd be so grateful if you left a rating and a 5-star review on the podcast platform you listen on. It's a simple way to help others find the podcast. And if there's a topic you'd love to hear more about, I'd truly love to hear from you. You can email me at themarvelousmiddleagepodcast@gmail.com or send me a DM on Instagram at Nicole Stute. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for choosing to thrive in this season of life.